So, is the screen visible properly? Slides?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, Dr. Dharmik and the participant of this refresher course. Dear friends, myself, Dr. Manoj Brahme. Today, I'm going to deliver a talk on the introduction of cloud computing. I hope since you are the faculty members of the various colleges, might be some of you have taught this subject as an elective in your university, and might be some of you are knowing while doing your MTech and PhD in those areas. But since it is a course for all of us, I'm just going through the basics of cloud computing. So the outline of the presentation, ma'am, are you recording this one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and please take some screenshots for these things.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the outline of my session will be what is the cloud computing, different perspectives of cloud computing, the properties and the characteristics, benefits from cloud computing. And we are going to discuss the service and deployment models, where the cloud is having 3 service models and 4 deployment models. Just a minute. So, what is a cloud? Yeah. Basically, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, USA, is the organization which gives various standards. So they have defined the cloud. And basically, the NIST had played a major role for the cloud computing, and they have defined the cloud computing. So according to NIST, the cloud is defined as it is a model for enabling the convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources, which can be a network, server, storage applications that can be rapidly provisioned and released with the minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So as per the NIST, the cloud must be a on-demand net. It should provide on-demand network access to a shared pool of resources, which can be provisioned rapidly. They can be scale up or scale down, and that is released, and the availability must be there. So availability in TAP, NIST says that the cloud model is consisting of 5 essential characteristics, 3 service model, and 4 deployment models, which is used globally. Berkeley University has defined the cloud as it is a cloud computing refers to both the applications delivered as a service over the internet and the hardware and the system software in the data centers that provide those services. Those services have been referred as software as a services. So according to Berkeley University, when a cloud is made available in a pay-as-you-go manner to the public, this service is being sold as utility computing. You might be knowing the face of this person. He is Dr. Rajkumar Bhuiya. He is called a father of cloud and grid computing. He is an Indian professor currently located and handling the cloud computing lab at Melbourne University, Australia. And he has written many books on cloud computing and grid computing. So according to Rajkumar Bhuiya sir, the cloud is a type of parallel and distributed system consisting of a collection of interconnected and virtualized computers that are dynamically provisioned and presented as one of the more unified computing resources based on SLA, that is a service level agreements established through a negotiation between the service provider and consumers. So according to Rajkumar Bhuiya sir, cloud computing is nothing but it is the sub branch, the advanced branch of a parallel and distributed systems. We have studied and we are teaching the distributed systems to our engineering students. So in which here there are interconnected virtualized computers which are provisioned dynamically as per the need, and they are following the things and provisioning of resources as per the SLA. So ultimately, in the summarized way, what we can say, a cloud computing is a new way of thinking about IT industry, but not it is not a specific technology. It is a new paradigm shift of computing. Basically, cloud computing is a type of utility computing where it is working as a pay-as-you-go model. Means whatever is required, only those resources will be provided. You have to pay for only those resources which you are using. And if you are upgrading or downgrading, then your payment will be increase or decrease. So it is a sort of utility computing. Then it follows SOA, that is a service oriented architecture. And then it follows SLA, service level agreements. The cloud properties are, it should must be highly scalable and elastical. It must be have high availability and high reliability. It must have high manageability and interoperability, high accessibility and portability, high performance and high optimization. So what are the techniques which are used for enabling the cloud? We have to use hardware level virtualization, parallel and distributed systems, and web services to enable the cloud. So now we will see in detail about the utility computing SO and SLA and these properties. So utility computing plus service oriented architecture and SLA is having these 5 parameters as we discussed in the last slide. So what is utility computing? It is a one service provisioning model. Service provider makes computing resources and infrastructure management available to the customer as needed and charges them for the specific uses rather than a flat rate. Normally, when we talk about the centralized computing or a network-based computing, so in that, before cloud computing, the distributed computing was there in the market, but people were using a centralized computing services where the fixed charges are there for using the resources. Either you have your own resources or you are using a rented resources. But the cloud computing, the type of utility computing, has made it easier that it is working on the format of pay as you go model. That is, the service provider, like we know, the common service provider for the cloud computings are, as we know commercially, globally, Google is one of the most popular cloud service provider. Then Amazon is there. Then Windows Azure from Microsoft. So these are the three, the globally available cloud service provider, what we call as a CSP. So they are providing a service provision model where the customer will be charged only as per the use, not on the flat rate. So what is the service oriented architecture which is followed in the cloud computing? SOA is essentially a collection of services which communicate with each other. So in service oriented architecture, which is followed in the cloud computing, it is following this type of diagram. There is one service provider. In cloud, it is called as a cloud service provider. Like Google is a CSP or Amazon is a CSP or your Azure is a CSP. And it is providing the services as per the requirement by the service consumer. So we as an end user or we as an organization, it can be a IT organization like say banking system or insurance company, or it can be the education organization like the colleges and university, which are hiring the services from the cloud service provider. So this is the service oriented architecture. And when we have a service oriented architecture, we have the service level agreements. So what is the SLA? SLA is defined as it is a contract between network service provider and a customer that specifies usually in measurable terms, that is a QoS, quality of services, what services the network service provider will furnish. So whenever us, for example, now being an organization, suppose my college, like say Political Engineering College or say Nagpur University. Nagpur University decided to go in a cloud environment. So Nagpur University has decided that all the data will be available in the cloud for whatever the colleges which are associated with the RTM Nagpur University. So RTM Nagpur University will have a service-oriented architecture where it will become a service consumer of the cloud service provider. Maybe for example, Google, yeah, Google India is a service provider and RTM Nagpur University is a service consumer. So in this type of that SOA architecture, the RTM Nagpur University will have a contract, on paper contract or online contract with the service provider, that is Google. So Google and RTM Nagpur University will have SLA in which it will be point wise, it will be mentioned that how the services will be provided by Google for uploading data of the RTM Nagpur University, for downloading the data, for the security of data and the other services. So, and how the quality will be mentioned by that service provider. So normally the things which are taken is a performance guarantee matrix, what will be uptime and downtime ratio that will be mentioned. So suppose Google mentioned that uptime will be say within a 5 sec, say within 1 minute the data will be uploaded if you follow this type of internet speed and bandwidth. So Google has to mention it on paper that what will be uptime and downtime ratio. what will be the throughput of the system, what will be the response time, then what will be the how the problems will be managed, what are the penalties for non-performance. All this document along with the security capabilities has to be mentioned. So everything comes under that agreement, what we call as a service level agreement. So cloud is that thing which follows the service oriented architecture and service level agreements. Now in that service level agreements, these are the important characteristics the cloud has to follow. One is what we know, scalability and elasticity. I think many of you know about this. So scalability is what? It is a desirable property of a system, a network or process, which indicates its ability to either handle growing amounts of work in a graceful manner. So scalability means what? Suppose currently Nagpur University has decided to upload only the first year and final year examination data. After some year, Nagpur University decided that no, we want to upload the data of all the students. Maybe initially they will go with professional courses like say engineering, pharmacy, and MBA. After 1 or 2 years, suppose Nagpur University want to upload the arts and commerce faculty information of those colleges associated on Google Cloud, then it must be scalable. That it should be able to increase the resources in a graceful manner. Or suppose after 2 3 years, suppose Nagpur University wants that it doesn't want to use those services, and then it should be up scalable and down scalable. Then what is elasticity? The ability to apply a quantifiable methodology that allows for the basis of an adaptive introspection within real-time infrastructure. So meaning is that it must be elastable, cloud must be elastable. For example, currently we are using the database. Say for example, we are using the Oracle database. After some time, suppose Nagpur University wants to go with the SQL 3 or MongoDB type of databases, then it must be having that elasticity to accompany those things. Now, these properties are activated using dynamic provisioning and multi-tenant design. So what is a dynamic provisioning in cloud? It is a simplified way to explain a complex network server computing environment where server computing instances are provisioned or deployed from an administrative console or client application by the server administrator, network administrator, or any other enabled user. So meaning is that, for example, whenever you go to the Google Cloud, so dynamic provisioning means that provisioning which will change dynamically as per the requirement. So the Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud or Windows Azure Cloud will provide you a particular, suppose RTM Nagpur University purchase a Google Cloud for all this data. So Google will provide a particular administrative console where the administrator of Nagpur University, they can upload and download the data, as well as the client applications, which can be used for uploading the data in the Google Cloud, downloading the data. And as per the need, that is a dynamic provisioning. What is a multi-tenant design? We know that in a normal centralized servers, only the data of a particular organization is stored. But like Nagpur University, maybe suppose Google has developed a particular cloud, which we call it as an education cloud, a type of hybrid cloud, uh, where like Nagpur University, maybe in Maharashtra, Mumbai University, Pune University, Shivaji University, and like from India, there are 100 university who has taken the services of a Google Cloud. So what Google will do, Google will not allocate a separate servers for that one. So Google will have multi-tenancy, multiple tenants residing at one server. So it is referring to the principle in software architecture where a single instance of software runs on a server serving multiple client organization. For example, like Nagpur University, all other 100 university in across the India, they need a same type of services, the education based services, uploading of the student data, the results, uploading of the faculty information, and all these things. So in that case, the multi-tenancy is that since they are using the same type of education services, so Google will create 100 virtual machines, VM machines, on a particular one physical server, a Google Cloud server, which is used for education purpose. And one virtual machine will be allocated to RTM Nagpur University, one to the Pune University, one to the Mumbai University, where they feel that they are working individually, but ultimately they are sharing the common services of a Google Cloud. So that is called as a multi-tenancy. So multi-tenancy client-oriented requirements will be, we need a customization, according to the need of the client and organization, and we have to maintain the quality of services. Then another important property of a cloud system is that it must have a very good availability and reliability. Now there is a difference between availability and reliability. When we say that a particular system is available, for example, taking the example, normally it is said that ATM machines of any banks, they are 100% available in every area, like say State Bank or any other bank. We know the State Bank is having highest number of ATM machine across the India. So it is 24/7 it is available. But what is reliability? Reliability is how much time it is up, that is ability of a system or component to perform its required function under stated conditions for a specific period of time. So availability of ATM machine is 24/7 into 365 days. So 365 days, 24/7, the ATM machines are available. But there may be a certain downtime in the night for uploading the data on ATM machine from the server. There is a certain downtime when the ATM machine is opened and the cash is dispensed or cash is put by the bank people in that way. So on an average, we can say suppose 2 hours are taken daily. 22 hours is the reliability. So 22/24, it's roughly comes to be 95%. So we can say ATM machines are 100% available, but reliability is 95% because only 95% of time they are available to the customer for the use. So in the same way, we have to ensure, that is a cloud service provider has to ensure that cloud services are available to the authenticated users 100% of time, and most probably it should be 100% reliable. In practice, it is not possible, but reliability should be higher. Now, how to achieve the 100% availability and reliability? That will be achieved by having a fault tolerance system, requires system resilience and system security. Fault tolerance, you know the basic meanings. A fault tolerant system is the property that enables a system to continue the operating properly in the event of failure of some of its components. So those of the participants who have taught the operating systems, you know the meaning of fault tolerant systems. So every systems is prone to certain failures. Either it can be the hardware failure, it can be a software failure, it can be a network failure. And in case of failure, there must be a the system must be fault tolerant. It must have a particular backup and recovery property where the system can resume from the last uh, instance which is stored properly. So the people who have taught database management system and the operating system, you know the meaning of this fault tolerant system. So in a fault tolerant system, it is assumed that it must have, in a cloud, it is assumed that the cloud must be a fault tolerance, and it must not have it must have these four basic characteristics. That is, no single point of failure. It should not have point of failure. Fault detection and isolation to the failing component. Whatever the component of cloud which are having some fault, those must be detected and those must be isolated without affecting the other things. Fault containment to prevent the chances of failure and availability of reservation. Another most important thing in a cloud is the security. Basically, my PhD was in the field of security. If you refer to the global documents, when the questions were asked for cloud migration, still today, 100% of the organization have not moved to the cloud. So when this question review was taken with the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Fortune 500 companies, some around 2015-16, I'm referring to that survey, in which the same question was asked: why you are not migrating to the cloud? Either it is a single cloud or multi-cloud environment. 85% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 company globally said the major issue is because of security. They felt that the systems are not secure. I have my data of my organization. Say, for example, RTM Nagpur University, crucial data is the students' results and the faculty information. For banking system, or say, for example, Bombay Stock Exchange, or say, for example, insurance company, it is very crucial medical data or financial data of a bank and stock market. And suppose they upload, they have fear that suppose the cloud service provider like Google or Amazon or Windows Azure or any other thing, they are not providing a security, I may lose my data and my data will be hacked by the hacker. So because of that, people are still not that much easily upgrading or migrating to the cloud. So security is most important in terms of cloud computing. So what is the security issues? That because of multi-tenancy, the major issues happens. So normally, people there are two. We will go in detail of those type of things. There are certain type of cloud that is deployment model called as a private cloud and public cloud. So when we talk about the public cloud, so Google or Amazon or say Windows Azure, these are the public cloud. So in the public cloud, you have multi-tenancy. Like me, like Nagpur University, there are 100 university whose data is stored on Google Cloud. For example, suppose a system administrator from Pune University, suppose he breaches the security laws and he hacks into RTM Nagpur University data because it is a multi-tenancy. His data is residing on the same Google server where my RTM Nagpur University data is resided. So in that case, the security will be compromised. To avoid that, cloud has to provide a broad set of policies, technologies, and controls deployed to protect the data, applications, and associated infrastructure of the cloud computing. So important security and privacy issues is to be mentioned by the cloud is data protection, then identity management, application security, and privacy. Whatever the data which is uploaded by the consumer, either on a private cloud or public cloud, it must be stored properly, and data is most important thing. So for that, nowadays people are using two type of cloud. One is called single cloud, but a single cloud has multiple issues. That in a single cloud, if the cloud service provider halts the services, you lose whole data. That is called as a cloud outage in terms of cloud computing, and it has happened with some of the organizations in USA. So then now people are moving to the IEEE concept of multi-cloud environment, where your data will be divided. For example, RTM University, suppose suppose RTM Nagpur University opts for multi-cloud environment, then RTM Nagpur University partial data will be uploaded on Google Cloud, partial data will be uploaded on Amazon Cloud, and partial data will be uploaded on Windows Azure. No, none of the cloud service provider gets a full data. So therefore, the data is secured. None of them get a full data, so the privacy and protection is maintained. Identity management. Whenever you are, this is also a very important topic for the PhD thesis. If you somebody want to do in security, one is identity management. So there has to be certain processes where identity management system will be used, and where you have to identify. For example, like when we go for banking mobile apps, then it asks you for identity, that you have to prove yourself, then only you are allowed to enter. So that type of identity management is there. Then application security, we are running multiple applications like say system applications and the user applications that must be secured. And privacy, we know privacy is 100% not possible, but still the privacy has to be maintained, even though 100% privacy is not possible. If you refer to the US judgment during the period of ex-president, then in that case, Google and Facebook has accepted in the US federal court that whatever data which is available with them, they have to share with the US government as per the law. So there is no 100% privacy, and many people are fighting against that. But still, as an organization, we can have privacy by using this type of masking of data, that is using a cryptographic conversion, encryption, decryption. The next one, the property the cloud must have, it must be a manageable cloud and interoperable cloud. What is manageability? Enterprise-wide administration of cloud computing systems. System manageability is strongly influenced by network management initiatives in telecommunication. So system must be manageable. Whatever the cloud is consisting of multiple servers, then multiple tenants, then operating system, multiple operating system, multiple data resources, the storage area network, SAN and network area storage, and many other things. So all these things must be manageable uh, for a particular enterprise. And what is interoperability? It is a property of a system whose interfaces are completely understood to work with the other products of the system, present or future, without any restricted access to the implementation. Now, interoperability is the most important characteristics of a cloud. That's why people are this Amazon or Google or Windows Azure, why they are preferable cloud and why they become popular, because they are interoperable. For example, suppose my data, RDM Nagpur University has decided to go with Google, say in the year 2020. and for next 5 years till 2025. But in the year 2022-23, RTM Nagpur University administrator found that the Google services are not that much better and security is not there. Better than that, the Amazon AWS, Amazon Web Services, having a better security and better services. So in that case, suppose Amazon is having interoperability features, then whatever the data, the RTM Nagpur University can cancel this agreement, service level agreement with the Google, and between the period that is in 2023, RTM Nagpur University can migrate to the Amazon Web Services AWS cloud. So in that case, it must have, if suppose it has interoperability features, whatever the data which is uploaded in the format of Google, that data will be easily migratable to the Amazon Web Service. If it is like that, then we say that it is 100% interoperable. But some of the basic cloud computing systems, there doesn't have this type of interoperability. Then migrating from one to another service provider becomes difficult. These properties of manageability and interoperabilities are achieved using control automation and system state monitoring. So in control automation, the system must be self-configured, it must be self-healing, it must have self-optimization, it must have self-protection. So every cloud computing system must be able to self-configure itself. Whatever the software components which are required, operating system or any other software, they must be self-configured. Suppose any type of faults happens, it must be self-healing. Then depending upon the requirement, it must have provide self-optimization, that is monitoring and control of resources. And it must be able to protect itself from the various type of the attacks, either it is a human attacks or a software attacks. So that is the features which is expected. Then what is a system monitor? System monitoring is another important characteristics of a cloud. In system monitor, it is a system monitor in system engineering is a process within a distributed system for collecting and storing the state data. What cloud is moving from one state to another state. For example, initially the cloud database is blank. Then Nagpur University uploads some data today. Tomorrow the data will be different. So like in operating system, we mentioned that the cloud is in various state. So initial state, then partial state, the completion state, according to the processes which are running. So in that case, there must be a system monitoring which will monitor the complete cloud services. So what to be monitored? The physical and virtual hardware state. What type of physical resources like servers and the hardwares and the other things you are using? What is a virtual hardware? Like virtualization is used, as all of you know, cloud computing is enabled using the virtualization. So virtual hardwares are used. So what is the state of that one? Then we must check, like in operating system, there is a resource monitoring. You go to system monitor in the Windows operating system. In the Windows operating system, if you go to control panel, you have a one software called system monitor, in which you can monitor how much is the CPU uses, how much is the memory uses, how much is the processes which are using that. And you can, using a task manager, you can kill those processes if you feel your machine or your laptop is fully used. So like that, there is a resource performance matrix has to be shown. That is how much hardware resources are performing, whether it is up to 100%, how much CPU, how much memory, that is to be shown. The network access pattern, whether network is accessed fully, securely or not, that has to be shown. System logs. System logs are used for fault tolerant system. So system has to maintain the log of each and every second, so that after 1 year, suppose I want to check when the failure has occurred in my Google Cloud, then I must be able to check it through the system logs. And one more important thing is a billing system. So what is a billing system? As we have discussed, the cloud works on a pay as you go model. So as you are using the system, resources of a cloud, the cloud service provider will provide you the billing for that one. So cloud has to maintain automatic billing system. Like if you go to the Google and Amazon, I will show in the end some of the pricing issues. So they have defined, if you go to the Google Cloud, for basic, for the purpose of administrator use, for the academician use, the Google, Amazon, and Windows Azure has given a free accounts. Suppose you are providing official login from your college, say like my login, official Google login. Uh, as an organization email. Suppose you have organization email, not your personal email. Using organization email, the Google or Amazon and Microsoft are providing the free access to the cloud with the basic features and with minimum 5 GB of data and all these things. So other than that, suppose you want to use it for your research purpose or for your commercial purpose, then you have to go to their billing systems, which is available on those websites easily. So in which they are mentioned whether you want to go with a single user or multiple users, how many users are in your system, what type of CPU required, what is the speed of CPU required, then whether you required any graphics card, then what type of memory you required in terms of GBs or terabytes, then what is the hard disk space you required, what are the softwares you require, and accordingly the billings are charged. And those billings are in per year wise, per month wise, week wise, and even day wise or hour wise. Suppose I want, as an Nagpur University, want to use a particular resource from Google Cloud for 1 year, then it can go for 1 year plan. Suppose Nagpur University want to use one particular service of Google Cloud only for 5 hours during the examination period, then Google will charge only for those 5 hour period. So all these things are provided in the billing system, which are transparent to the system administrator and the user. The next one is the performance and optimization. What is the performance? So as the cloud.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. If someone
Yes.
tries for takes for 5 hours, then whether the data will remain within the cloud or after 5 hours it will be removed from the cloud?
No, depending upon the what type of database services you are.
Because service is hired for 5 hours only.
Yeah, correct. Yes, I got your point, Mr. Purna. What happened that depending upon the services, there are different services. Suppose you have hired the services of databases for a period of 1 month or 1 year. Whatever the services you have hired, your database will be there. But processing cost higher. Suppose you are using processing only for 5 hours, then processing cannot be used after the 5 hours. But database will be there till what time you have hired the database services. I hope you got the answer.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So now how to get this performance and optimization? This performance is achieved through parallel computing, through load balancing and job scheduling. Parallel processing, bit level parallelism, instruction level parallelism, data level and task level parallelism is used. Might be some of you have taught parallel processing. So even in the real-time system, like say stock market, the parallel processing is done. Stock market like Bombay Stock Market, or say insurance company like LIC, or the banks like state banks, they are having a core banking operation. So in which all the data, suppose they have only centralized server processing, then suppose that same server get failed, then the data will be lost. So they have parallel processing. Like as per as my knowledge, some years back when I was studied the Bombay Stock Exchange services. So at that time, they are having more than 100 servers. And parallelly, all the data is stored because stock market, we know it is a volatile one and the data is changing second by second. And it is the financial data of all the companies which are listed in the Bombay Stock Exchange. So parallelly, the data is uploaded in 100 servers. Suppose one server failed, automatically from the same point, the next server will catch up and provide the services. So as a user, you feel that 24/7 you are connected either through your mobile app, whatever you are using for share market. So in the same way, in a cloud, the parallel processing is used. In cloud, we feel that we are working only on a single server, but parallelly, like it maintains hundreds of servers in the background, and parallelly the data is stored in that one. That is mirroring concept is used. So for a parallel processing, normally in this type of racks, you might have visited this. We have visited one type of data centers of Huawei company, the third largest company from China across the world. And we have visited the data center of Huawei, this type of data centers. So as shown in the picture. So in the hardware approaches, in parallel processing, cloud computing has to maintain multi-core computer servers having a multiple cores, Then symmetric multiprocessor, multiple processor are installed in that one. Then GPUs are used, graphical processing unit, because you may be using certain sort of augmented and virtual reality applications or graphical applications. And then for that one, or maybe say, for example, NASA or say Indian monitoring weather monitoring system like ISRO. For those type of ISRO type of application, a GPU or vector processor is used, graphical processing unit GPU and vector processor, which can scale up the things very highly. And then distributed computing is used, where the data is distributed at various places. So for that one, multiple parallel languages had to be used. Then load balancing, as you know, since we are using multiple servers, uh, every server should not get overutilized. So therefore, in load balancing concept, what cloud is doing, it is used to improve the resource utilization, to improve the system performance, and to improve the energy efficiency. So load balancing is very popular concept. It is also one of the topic which can be chosen for the PhD research in load balancing in the cloud computing area. So it is a technique where to distribute the workload evenly across two or more computer, network link, CPU, hard drives. For example, if suppose cloud is maintaining, say Google Cloud is having a 10 servers in Google India, which is used for Google Education Cloud. And like Nagpur University, 100 universities are uploading the data on Google Education Cloud in India. So for that one, what happens that Google will employ the load balancing concept. So instead of uploading the 100 universities data like Nagpur University on a one server, Google will divide 10 university data on server one, next 10 university on server two, next 10 university on third. So load is balanced. So CPU and the processor and the memory, that is balanced. So suppose one server is found to be overloaded. Suppose one server on which say like Nagpur University, Pune and Mumbai University data is uploaded. And then it finds that this server from Maharashtra or say Mumbai server, it is used 90% of time. But Chennai server, where South University data is uploaded, it is hardly used 40% of time. Then in runtime, some of the data from Mumbai server is transferred to the Chennai server so that both the server runs properly. So that is a runtime load balancing. There are two type of load balancing called static and dynamic, but in cloud, dynamic load balancing is more popularly used in runtime. So that is used to improve the things which I have explained. Then job scheduling, the people who have taught operating system, you know what is the job scheduling. So jobs are scheduled according to the software execution, which jobs will be scheduled according to the queue manner, and according to that scheduling, either it can be system defined or user defined workflow, job scheduling can be done. Another important properties of cloud computing is accessibility and portability. So what is accessibility? Everybody knows from the meaning. It is a general term used to describe the degree to which a product, device, service, or environment is accessible by as many people as possible. Meaning is that, for example, Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud or Azure Cloud, they are 100% accessible for any product, any device, any service in any environment. Either you are working in India or Australia, Europe, anybody can access the data from anywhere. So that is accessibility. And what is a portability? Service portability is the ability to access the services using any devices, anywhere, continuously with mobility support and dynamic adaptation to resource variation. So service portability meaning is that, for example, currently, RTM Nagpur University is using the data through a web-based services, like say, uh, through laptops or through PCs and all those things. Suppose after 2 years using a Google Cloud, the RTM Nagpur University has decided to want to use this system on a tab. Suppose they have provided tabs to the Nagpur University people, or suppose they want a mobile applications. Now, currently, the Google is not providing a mobile application, but after 2 years, the Google may provide a mobile application. So same data should be used to be there. So portability, as the normal meaning says, uh, you must be able to port the different hardware and different softwares. So any type of devices, like either it can be a computer or it can be tab or it can be mobile, they must be able to port into your cloud systems. So for that one, uniform access is to be provided to the user, and thin client type of the systems are used. In thin client systems, the servers are there with the capability and the clients are the dumb terminals where no processing happens. So uniform access, we know. So these are the basic features what we have studied that is required for a cloud. So suppose you want like Google or Amazon or say Microsoft Windows. Suppose any organization like say suppose Persistent is a big company, or say SCL Nagpur or TCS Nagpur. Suppose they want to provide the cloud services, education cloud services to the education education colleges and universities in Vidarbha region, say Nagpur University, Amravati University, and thousands of colleges in that one. Now suppose this Persistent or TCS Nagpur has decided to go ahead with that one, they must have this type of facilities and characteristics has to be decided. It means that they must follow the service oriented architecture like Google and Amazon. They must have the service level agreements with those colleges and university which are hiring those services, and they must have this type of around 10 services which we have discussed. Suppose they have all this type of 10 services or characteristics like accessibility, portability, reliability, availability, interoperability, manageability, what we discussed, then they can become a very good, a secure cloud service provider. So if you want to become a very good cloud service provider, you must have all those type of the characteristics available within your cloud. So that is about the definitions of cloud computing and what are the type of different type of the characteristics a cloud must have. Now, so coming to the next topic, why we are moving to the cloud. Initially, people were using this type of systems like say when we started the computers, specifically the first generation of computer, which was started in the USA, the people who have taught computer organization, those faculty members knows the first, second, third, and fourth and fifth generation of computers. So we started with the 1960, 70, then IBM 360 architecture on basis on which we all the other personal computer was developed on the basis of IBM 360, 370 architecture in the period of 1960. And then 1970, then 1980 onwards, the organization like Microsoft have come up with their own personal computers, but still era of mainframe computer was there. By the time we reach in the era of 1990 onwards, mainframe computer were mostly obsoleted and people started using these personal computers and the servers like the client server architecture, centralized servers and all those things. 1995 to 2000 onwards, people started using distributed and parallel computing. Cloud computing comes into the picture mostly from say around 2010 plus. So now why people are moving, why there is a need, like organizations like universities or banks or insurance companies or the government organizations like stock market or the any type of organization, why they should move. So there must be a benefit. So these are the list of the benefits. The cloud computing brings many benefits. For the market and enterprises, it reduces the initial investment, it reduces the capital expenditure, improve the industrial specialization, improve the resource utilization. And for the end user and individuals who are the using of end users of the systems, it reduces the local computing power, local storage power, and variety of thin client devices in a daily life. So now what will happen in this case? The reducing of initial investment. In a traditional system, suppose what does the cloud computing achieves? In a traditional system, the investment risk enterprise take the risk. In cloud computing, the cloud reduces the risk because all the data, for example, suppose Nagpur University, suppose it has to store the data of all the colleges, say around Nagpur University is roughly having a 508 colleges which are in the Nagpur University, consisting of engineering, pharmacy, MBA, arts, commerce, science faculty. For these 500 plus colleges, suppose Nagpur University want to store the data, then it is having a big initial investment, which consisting of hundreds of servers, then RAM, then processor power, then GPU, then a separate server room, then air conditioning things, many things are there. So investment risk is there. In a cloud, that risk is given to the cloud service provider. You don't have any risk. Infrastructure, enterprise owns the infrastructure. Nagpur University wants, then it has to own the infrastructure. Nagpur University might has to assign a separate building for that one with all this type of servers, the data centers, the other infrastructure which is required for physically, and then physical security. But in cloud, your initial investment is reduced by lakhs of rupees because cloud provider owns the infrastructure, the complete server of and the hardware and software and the servers and network resources that is owned by the cloud like Google or Amazon. So your initial investment is totally zero. Then time duration. Suppose Nagpur University want to go ahead with that, it will take maybe around 1 or 2 years to procure all this need and then install those things with the type of domain expert. But in a cloud, everything is ready with Amazon, Google. You just approach them and it is ready within a same day. So that is the advantages of going with the cloud. Then another advantage is reducing the capital expenditure. In traditional one, the business focus is on a need to own its IT department. For example, RT Nagpur University or maybe a say State Bank, suppose they want to go with the cloud. The capital expenses to be owned by RTM Nagpur University or the State Bank. In a cloud computing, the cloud provider takes the care of everything, the business focus. Pay for all investment and human resources. Suppose Nagpur University or any state bank want to go, then it has to pay for monthly salary of human resources for next 10 years. They are going to use the cloud, private cloud and all, and the investment of server, hardware, operating system, software, and all these things. Here you have to pay as you go model. You are only paying for the services what you are using of those cloud, as it is in a pay as you go model type of utility computing. So here enterprise pays as the service is used. So Google pays everything. You don't have to pay anything. Time duration for establishing in traditional system is very long, but here it is a very fast. Then improve the industrial specialization. So in terms of cloud computing in the traditional way, suppose we are not using the cloud computing and we have to upload the data, then enterprise needs to take care everything like collaboration. For example, suppose Nagpur University wants to upload the data, then it needs the hardware administrator, it needs database administrator, it needs system analyst. It has to contact many people and many enterprises, and it has to collaborate with many people and many organizations to procure the human resources as well as the hardware and software resources. But you don't require that type of collaboration. Enterprise focus on its own business. So Nagpur University is not a IT industry. It is not a hardware industry where Nagpur University should employ the people for purchasing the hardware, software, memory, and then comparison and all these things and software. Rather, that care is taken by Google or Amazon. Google and Amazon takes care of everything and no collaboration is required. Suppose Nagpur University want to migrate to the cloud management. Enterprise works with the poor manageability. So again, management has to be done with the Nagpur University in a traditional way. And in a cloud environment, Nagpur University people don't need any management. There is a desktop console. There is a web-based console which is provided, and any user that is provided by cloud service provider like Amazon and Google, and you can easily do the task. It is a very user-friendly console. The relationship is a standalone enterprise relationship. In the cloud computing environment, it is a win-win partnership that it is a beneficial to the service provider like Google and Amazon, beneficial to the client like Nagpur University. Resource utilization is improved. In normal traditional way, without the cloud computing, IT resources underutilized most of the times. For example, this is a common thing. I hope you are the faculty members of all the engineering colleges who are the participant of this refresher course. You know that whenever mostly you are from computer IT background, I hope so. So whenever you might having a computer labs in your respective colleges, where minimum hard disk which is installed on every computer is 500 GB or 1 TB of these things. Nowadays it is more than that. Even at our home also, the laptops which you are using, forget about the nowadays networking site, and we are taking thousands of photographs and all these things. So therefore only the memory is required for that. But otherwise in a organization like colleges, photographs are not uploaded by student and faculty. So ultimately, even for computer and IT, where all practicals are taken uh, on a computers, hardly 10% of resources are used. Memory, I'm talking about the memory resources because we are conducting most of the practicals in C, C++, and Java, and which are the open source software which requires very less memory. So memory required is less, hard disk required is less. So around 90% of time the things are not used. And again, as we know our education pattern, out of 1 year services, uh, this 6 months only the college is working. 6 months the students are busy in examination. So out of 100% uses in a year, if we consider 50% of time, the lab resources are underutilized, no utilization. We can say a zero utilization. And even when we talk about this, whenever the colleges are going on, those 6 months, the odd semester and the even semester, then in that case, also the utilization is not 100%. It is hardly, we can say 33%. Just a minute. Because colleges are only working for 8 hours. So 33% remaining every day, remaining 16 hours, the computers are closed. So IT resources are underutilized in every college or in every government organization. Forget about like core banking type of the services or stock market type of the services, which are 24/7 utilized. But other organization like government organization like insurance LIC company or say RTM in Nagpur. Yes. Yeah. So in that case, it is underutilized. But in cloud computing, share to improve the utilization of IT resources. The resources that is a concept of grid computing, which is used nowadays. There are many grids which are available. Even our home computer or home laptop or the college computers, they can be shared on a grid, just like we are sharing the electricity on with the MSCB grid. Solar electricity, we can share our IT resources that is available. In India, that is not that much popular, but in US and Europe, you can share with those and you can have a second income for you sharing your resources. So in cloud computing, the resources are shared in a multi-tenant environment, so they are not underutilized. Power consumption. Uh, it is a wastage of power and cooling system. Like you required for a server room, you required cooling system like air conditioning system. And for every computer, suppose you have 100 computer in the lab, then you required 100 into the 230 volt AC, what may be the power which is required. So much of power is wasted when the lab it is used. Here, everything is on a server. So number of systems are less. So they are globally optimized and following the green energy standards. So power consumption is less. Local computing power, yeah. Whenever we are using a normal computing, like say standalone computing or LAN in a local area network, the client server computing, like in our colleges or university, we are using the hardware requirement and software requirement that we have to install the applications in a local computer. Like we will install, suppose there is a lab of 30 computer, we'll install Java and C++ and Oracle on all the 30 computers, and we need a separate hardware for that one. And it is hard to portable the application from one end to another end. With the cloud computing, only basic hardware is required to connect with the internet. What you required is your mobile screen or your laptop with internet connection, and you with the front end SaaS application of a Google or Amazon cloud, you are connected. So the hardware requirement is very less in the cloud computing. And then software requirement, no local installation is required. For example, suppose for my college, I want to use for projects purpose. Suppose I hire Amazon Web Services for my projects, where my students' projects are based on machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, deep learning, then database technology, web technology. So all these softwares which are required for AI, ML, data science, and database technology and web technologies, they are already installed in a Google or Amazon. So I don't require to purchase the separate software licensing. So huge cost of software licensing and hardware is saved, and no local requirement. I don't have to install any software. I get every software available from the server, and it is portable. I can portable the things from one thing to another, one machine to another. Then local storage power is also reduced because everything is stored in the cloud. So the storage space will be saved in a cloud computing, dynamically allotted on demand. For example, suppose uh, like Nagpur University and every university functioning hardly 6 months for the school and colleges and the university. So Google will know that in India, mostly the education period is from say July to October and say January to April. So meaning that 6 months of time, Google Cloud will be fully utilized. Google Education Cloud, where all 100 university data will be uploaded for students. But remaining 6 months of time, say for April to June, and say October to January, in that period, students will not be available in campus. So uses will be very less. So in that case, Google will came to know that 80% of my resources are not used for 6 months. So that area Google can allocate to the another organization for storage space. So, and in here, the cloud availability is 100% guaranteed because it is from the commercial service provider. So 24/7. Now in normal system, suppose you are going to college, you can access your college systems or Nagpur University whenever you are available physically in college or physically available. Now in pandemic situation, suppose like in second wave of pandemic, we were at home for around 3 months. It was very poor and worse situation in Nagpur. So in such period, you cannot use your systems and services because they are available in your college or university. But thanks to the cloud computing, now everything was. That's why IT industry was in boom because of the cloud computing. Because of cloud computing, the whole data was available easily from the cloud service provider. And IT industries are working from last 1.5 years in online mode, and they are growing very much because of the major role is played by the cloud computing and AI. Then variety of end devices. In a traditional way, the computing power only accessed through desktop computer. Here, cloud computing can be accessed through small smart devices. You can access through tab, through mobile, and all these things. Small device intelligence can be shifted. So these are all the benefits. What are the benefits we can say from the cloud computing? That's why it has become a very powerful paradigm. Now coming to the last portion of our presentation, that is the cloud service model and cloud deployment model. That is a very important thing. What type of service model? So as we have seen the definition of NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology USA, they have defined there are various service model and various deployment model. So basically there are 3 service model and 4 deployment model as defined by NIST, which is globally followed. Maybe many of you have heard about this one, what is called as a SaaS, the software as an application, then PaaS, platform as application, platform as a service, software as a service, and IaaS, infrastructure as a services. Now, why to go ahead with that one? So just in this presentation, I just want to give an analogous example. For example, suppose you want to move to the city and you are looking for a place to live. For Nagpur, suppose we are moving to the Mumbai, very economic capital of India and a metro city, and we want to a place to live in the Mumbai. So then there are 3 options: either to build a new house in Mumbai, which is practically not possible; to buy an empty house in Mumbai, yes, possible; and to live in a full-fledged hotel. So suppose we want to build a new house, you can fully control everything you like and your new house to have, but that is a hard work. Suppose you want to build a house in Mumbai, then you can build as per your need. But then in that case, you need much of time and you need much of work and you need much of investment. So that is a very long-term process. Another area is suppose you want to buy an empty house, you can customize some of the part of your house, but it is not possible to change the complete architecture. For example, you buy a particular 2 BHK flat. After sometimes, if your family increases, you say that I need a 3 BHK, but now it is not possible. Third thing is, how about live in a hotel? Suppose you want to live in a hotel, it will be a good idea if only thing you care is enjoy your life. Suppose you don't want your the third option is popular. Suppose you don't want your even though some people are calculating this one. We know that real estate is there, but some people, what is a cluster? Can you say what is a, just a minute. Some person has asked, what is a cluster computing?
Yes, sir, one more question is there in chat box.
Yeah, I will just check.
Yes, sir, please.
Which platforms are used for large-scale cloud computing? Yeah, I'm coming to that questions in a different type of deployment clouds. I will come to that question. What is a cluster computing in cloud? How it is used? Okay, so cluster computing is a separate area in a cloud computing. where various clusters are made. For example, different server clusters are made. Cloud computing is a broad area. And in that area, in deployment model, suppose I'm using a public cloud, I can make a various clusters. Like a Google is a company. So Google can make one cluster for education services, one cluster for insurance services, like that one. So explanation will come to this point. So when we are living in a hotel, what you require, you don't care about what is required. Everything is provided. Or suppose, forget about hotel, you buy a rented flat, which is a full furnished flat. Then in that case, you don't have to bother about the TV to purchase. You don't have to bother about furnitures. You don't have to bother about kitchen utensils. Everything is available. And you can change it by telling to the user. Mail services are cloud-based. Yes. Mail services are, yes, definitely they are cloud-based. Like Google's mail services or Yahoo mail services, they are all cloud-based services. So now, same ideology now, if we want to translate to the service model, like in that case, there are three types of service model called IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service model. So suppose similar to build a new house in previous analogy, you can rent some virtualized infrastructure and build up your own IT system among those resources, which may be fully controlled. This is called infrastructure as a service solution. For example, having the same analogy, suppose one organization like say Reliance or say SCL or Infosys or Persistent in Nagpur, big IT companies, or say Raymond's or Moraji, this type of ERP type of the systems. Yes, cloud follows plug and play type of the systems. Whatever the way you are putting the devices, only those devices are plugged and you can remove the things. It follows plug and play. So infrastructure as a service is a one thing. It's like a building a new house. Platform as a service is like buying an empty house and getting all the resources. And living hotel is like a software as a solution. So these are the three. This is important diagram which tells there are three type of service model as defined by the NIST. One is called software as a services. So end user are getting this one. This is application. This is a platform and this is infrastructure. So for example, suppose I'm an end user. I'm a user. I'm a particular faculty in a college and I'm uploading the data. So suppose my college or my Nagpur University has adopted the system of student data and faculty data to be uploaded in the Google Education Cloud. So I will be working through the Google SaaS application. That is a software as a service application. It will be used from a mobile device, from any type of device, and it will be a web-based application. So I will log on to the Google Cloud. Mail services are developed before the initiation of cloud computing, but nowadays these services are used using the cloud. So in a software as a service manner, it is using a web-based applications. Okay. So I will be logging to my mobile device and I will log into the Google Education Cloud using my web-based application. So I'm using a Google application as a software as an application. So I'm as an end user always is at the SaaS level. The developers are at the PaaS level. That is for example, suppose Nagpur University want to deploy certain applications which are not currently available in the Google Cloud. Then in that case, those can be provided using the platform as a services, where Nagpur University can employ certain developers who and Google will be providing with the development tools like say Oracle or say PostgreSQL as a database, then Java and .NET as the software technologies, and they will be provided with the runtime environment and control interface. So Google will provide all these things, and then the developers will develop their softwares, which is required by the Nagpur University. They will test those softwares, and they will get the facility of resource management, fault tolerance, dynamic provisioning, and load balancing. So they are working at the platform. So that is called as a platform as a services. So cloud provide software as a services to the end user and platform as a services to the developers. Now then comes to the at the bottom level, the bottom level of the cloud service model is IaaS, infrastructure as a services. So it provides the resource management interface and system monitoring interface. Normally, the hardware services are dealt in the EAS system, that is infrastructure as service. It provides the type of the hardware infrastructures that is the network infrastructures and the hardware infrastructure like servers, processors, and the memory, and that is taken care by the hardware administrator. So hardware administrator works at the EAS level, developer works at the PaaS level, and the end user works at the SaaS levels. So examples of this type of some questions was related to that. What are the different type of the uh, technologies which are used in cloud? So these are the certain examples like Amazon EC2, Elastic Cloud Part 2, and Eucalyptus Cloud. This is the open source cloud. Then Open Nebula Cloud. These are all the infrastructure as a services. Meaning is that suppose Nagpur University want to purchase 5 servers and with say 50 terabytes of space and say 10 terabytes of memory and with the GPU facility and the vector processing facility, then it has to approach to the Amazon EC2 cloud or Open Nebula cloud for that one. So system architecture of infrastructure as a services is that this is the computing system. When you go to Amazon Web Services EC2, then Amazon EC2 servers, they have their own servers, which is located, we don't know whether they are in India or Europe or USA. So they have their own computing system, they have their own network system, and they have their own network attached storages, NAS storages. Then there has a virtualization layer, the VMware sort of the applications are installed on that one. And then end user deals with these two things. End user is dealing with the resource management interface, an interface which is used to provide. For example, suppose I am an administrator of Nagpur University, then I will get a user interface by which I can increase my resources, I can decrease my resources. That is computing resources, network and storage resources. And I will get a system monitoring interface where I can get the system log of the resources which are used by me. But these are the only two interfaces which are provided by Amazon EC2 or Open Nebula Cloud to me. Everything will be hidden from me below the virtualization layer. That will be taken care by those company service provider. So for that one, virtualization stack is used. This is a multi-tenant operation where, say suppose this is an Amazon EC2 hardware, that is Amazon server, on which the hypervisor, that is the virtualization application is installed. And here there can be multi-tenancy. For example, suppose this is the RTM Nagpur University, this is Mumbai University, and this is Pune University. Everybody is hiring for the Amazon Web Services Education Cloud. So RTM Nagpur University data will be stored on virtual machine 1, Mumbai University data on virtual machine 2, Pune University data will be stored on virtual machine 3. So this virtual, the data will be submitted from front end, that is a SaaS, and it reaches to the EAS and at the virtual machine level. And then through the application, it is reaching to the OS. This OS can be different OS like say Windows or Linux or Unix, what type of the OS which is required. And through the hypervisor, the data is reaching to the hardware. So this is a virtualization technique which is used at the EAS level for multi-tenancy operations. So it provide virtual machines, virtual storage, and virtual networks with. So what is EAS? EAS enabling techniques. In EAS, we can provide the virtualization using a server virtualization, storage virtualization, and network virtualization. And EAS provide the user interface for managing the resources and user interface for monitoring the system resources. The next model is the platform as a services, and the popular cloud software which are used is a Microsoft Windows Azure. So Azure is not a EAS service, it is a PaaS services. In Windows Azure, for example, suppose you want to develop a software and you want to use Windows applications like say .NET or say then C hash sort of the things, and Microsoft SQL Server. So as a front end you want .NET, and as a backend you want Microsoft SQL Server. So both are Microsoft applications. So then as a developer, my company can hire for Microsoft Windows Azure Cloud. And me and my other 10 developers, we will be developing applications because we don't have to purchase the software like .NET, because it is provided like and Microsoft SQL Server, it is provided on Windows Azure. Google App Engine, suppose I want to use Google services, the Google App Engine provides. Hadoop is also another services, which is Hadoop is a distributed system. It is a most popular distributed system. So these are all the PaaS application, platform as a services. So they provide the platforms, they provide the programming languages and the tools which are required for the developer and the hosting environment. So how it is like that? Suppose I'm a developer from a Persistent, and Persistence want to develop. So 500 developer of the Persistent, they are working on Amazon cloud or say Microsoft Windows Azure cloud. Suppose they are using Microsoft applications. So this Microsoft Windows Azure cloud will provide the programming IDE and APIs and development tools which are used for the development. Then it will provide the system control interface, and then it will provide me the computing resources, network resources, and storage resources. With in the runtime environment, these type of facilities are provided. So as a developer, I can develop, suppose there are 500 people from Persistent Nagpur or TCS Nagpur, then TCS or Persistent don't have to purchase those hardware, those servers, and those softwares as a licensing software. They will just hire the Microsoft Windows Azure services and they will develop those softwares in .NET, and they'll get runtime environment where they can test things. So it is usually mostly by the developers. So ultimately, in PaaS, what it provides a runtime environment. PaaS provide the services like programming API, development tools, what is required for development of user applications, and system control interfaces provided through the policy. They have policy according to the policy, then the things are provided. The last, which is the people like you and me, we are connected with the cloud through a software as a services, that is end user. So Google Apps like Gmail, somebody was raised the question like the email was provided, yes, before the cloud services. Yes, email was there before the cloud like Yahoo Mail and Hotmail. But now even Gmail has started before the Google was not in cloud. But now Gmail is a cloud-based application. So all type of Google apps like Gmail, Google Docs, Google Sites, what type of Google applications are coming? That is even the Google Whiteboard we are using. All these are the software as a services. That is the front end through which we. So suppose while teaching you are using a Google Meet. Now we are using a Cisco WebEx. Suppose I'm using Google, so I can use Gmail for sending mails to my student, Google Docs for sharing the runtime environment like Google Docs and Google Excel sheets. I can create a Google site for sharing the resources. Then I can use Google Whiteboard. So all data are available through a software as a services. So from my mobile, if I install Google Classroom as a software, I can get all these Google applications which are required for education purpose in online environment, and I can use that one. Then Salesforce.com. Salesforce is a madam has said in my brief introduction that yes, I had developed the industry-sponsored lab with the Salesforce, one of a company called Symmetric Software Mumbai. So we have the industry-sponsored lab with them. Salesforce is the #1 CRM software, customer relationship software. Initially, you might have heard the SAP. SAP now currently SAP is replaced worldwide by Salesforce, and if you know there is huge amount of job opportunity in the Salesforce environment. So what is a Salesforce.com? It is a CRM, customer relationship management software, which is a cloud-based. Why? Salesforce has taken lead. SAP was there for 20 years, but just like Nokia and HMT watches, SAP organization couldn't change themselves according to the time and requirement. So therefore, like Nokia and HMT watches, they were nowhere. And now the Salesforce, when it was developed, it was the developed from last around 7 to 8 years and 2010, 12 onwards. It is a cloud-based software. So 24/7 anywhere it is available to you. So therefore it has replaced the SAP as the #1 ERP and CRM software. Then iOS. So these are all the applications where end users are working through that one. So from a Salesforce, suppose I want to manage my customers. I'm a banking person from State Bank and I have to manage my 10,000 customers of my State Bank. Then I can use the Salesforce software and those customers will get login about their customer account, their balance and all this thing through the Salesforce platform. So in software as a services, there are web-based applications and web portal. You can use it from your mobile, from tabs, from so these are multiple type of the end users, and end users can connect with any devices. They can connect to the web portal or web-based applications, just like yes, Amazon purchases, whatever the e-commerce website like Amazon and Flipkart and all these things. They are all this providing a software as a services model. So Under web applications, so suppose I want to use a Google application. So from my mobile, I will install Google Classroom, and I uses the Google Whiteboard and Google Meet applications, Google Duo for connecting with my students. And below that web applications, there are certain general application, business, scientific, and government applications. That is the second layer. And then everything at the bottom level, it is provided through commercial and open source platform. So this is the architecture of a software as a service layer where end user is connected. Some of the examples of a web portal like Yahoo, NetVibes, MSNBC, iGoogle, these are the example of SaaS as a web portal. So SaaS is a web service. Through using web services, SaaS is enabled, and SaaS provides services for general applications like you and me for Google Classroom, business applications like say LIC or banking applications. When you install any your mobile banking services, like your State Bank applications or Federal Bank applications or Bank of Baroda applications, so that is nothing but SaaS applications connecting with their cloud. Scientific applications like suppose you are a DRDO or the ISRO user, you can have scientific applications from your mobile connected as a scientist connected with the ISRO server. Then government applications like government clouds. Last topic is the deployment models. So basically NIST has defined there are 4 type of deployment model, what is called as a public model, public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, and hybrid cloud. So each are having their own requirement and their own characteristics. So what is the public cloud? Public cloud infrastructure is made available to the general public on a large industry group or is owned by an organization selling cloud services. For example, Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud or this type of the cloud or the Microsoft Azure, these are all the public cloud because they are provided to the industry group and any type of organization. So this is a multi-tenant cloud where multiple tenants are residing on the same cloud. The characteristics of a public cloud is it is having a homogeneous infrastructure, must have common policies for all the tenants. The resources are shared by multiple tenants. The infrastructure are either given on a lease basis or on a rented basis. And economics of scaling is there. As you increase the services, you have to pay more. Another concept is called private cloud. The issues with the public cloud is that, for example, suppose I'm an organization like Nagpur University, or suppose I'm a banking organization, say Datta Megi is having a bank, Tirupati Urban Bank, which is a scheduled bank. So in Vidarbha, they are having more than 100 branches and all this thing. Now, Datta Megi organization, they don't want that data must be given to the Google or Amazon cloud. They want security. So in that case, they can have the private cloud for the Tirupati Urban Bank, in which the cloud will be maintained in Nagpur, and all the 100 branches of the Tirupati Urban Bank will be connected with that private cloud. So in that case, cloud infrastructure is operated solely for an organization. Means other than Tirupati Urban Bank people, no outside person can use the Tirupati Urban Private Cloud. It may be managed by the organization like Tirupati people or third party like say Persistent or TCS. They can give the services to TCS Nagpur or Persistent Nagpur, and then that cloud can be exist on premise, mean the headquarters of Tirupati Urban Bank or off premise. It may be in TCS Nagpur or say Persistent Nagpur, and it is operated from that one. But it is called as an internal cloud. It is also called as an on-premise cloud or a private cloud. So it is having a heterogeneous infrastructure. It has a customized policy. All resources are dedicated. They are not shared. There is no multi-tenancy in that one. All this infrastructure in-house infrastructure, and it is having end-to-end control. So from a security point of view, private cloud is preferred. But suppose you want more services and security is not that much important, you can go with the public cloud like Amazon and Google sort of things. So comparison sort of things, this is a homogeneous, private is heterogeneous, policy is common for all, private cloud, it is a customized policy. Resources are shared in multi-tenancy. In private cloud, it is a dedicated resources. Cost operational expenditure is more in public cloud. In private cloud, initial capital expenditure is very, very high. In community cloud, some certain clouds are used only for specific community. For example, throughout my session, I have given the example of education cloud. So in education cloud is a one community cloud. Like for example, Google may create education cloud for all universities and colleges across India. Now suppose like State Bank and Bank of Baroda sort of nationalized and private banks. Suppose they access to Amazon Web Services. So Amazon can create a separate cloud for banking services. Like for example, suppose insurance company like LICs and say other insurance companies, suppose they access. So there can be one cloud for education cloud, there can be one banking cloud, there can be one insurance cloud. So one particular cloud which is used only for common type of specific community, that is used as called as a community cloud. The infrastructure is shown as it is. The last one is called hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud is a combination of everything. The cloud infrastructure is a composition of two or more cloud. It can be combination of private or community or public cloud. That is used for that one. So normally it is used for big organization or enterprises where they have one center in India, one center in say UK, one center is in Australia. Sort of this type of organization. Then this type of hybrid cloud is used. So ultimately, lastly, we can say a cloud ecosystem is a cloud is consisting of, there are four type of cloud called as a public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, and hybrid cloud. How cloud manage security in database. So that is a different topic, ma'am. Cloud manage the security with the help of different type of security parameters, as I mentioned in databases. The databases will be stored in the EAS level, and the Oracle type of the database applications are will be stored in the PaaS level. And in the SaaS level, you get the connect. You can get a SaaS application, web-based application from which you can upload the data and download the data. So whenever you are uploading the data nowadays, these cloud services like Google and Amazon, they are coming with their own encryption, decryption. When you upload anything, either you can have your own encryption, decryption if you want, but for that the cost is more. Otherwise, when I upload the data in a Google Cloud, my data is encrypted and it is kept in encrypted format. So whenever the data is required, then it at that time again I will ask for the data. The cloud will decrypt the data and give. So other than me and the system administrator of that cloud, nobody else know the data. In that way, the security is maintained. So these are the various like Google Apps, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics. These are the applications like SaaS. Then Google App Engine, GE, Windows Azure, Force.com, IBM, Hadoop. These are the applications used at the PaaS level. Eucalyptus system, then Sun Microsystem, Amazon Web Services, Java. These are the EAS type of the system. Lastly, these two slides just to summarize the things. Advantages of cloud computing system: it lowers the computing cost, improve the performance, reduce the software cost. It provide instant software updates are available, unlimited storage capacity, like you can reach to terabytes and petabytes. Data reliability is increased. Then universal document access, you can access the document 24/7 from any place. There is no dependency on device. Any device can be connected in a cloud, and latest version is available of the software. So these are the advantages. But yes, like every system, cloud also have certain disadvantages. It requires a constant internet connection. Suppose you are in a rural area and you don't have internet connection. Like suppose you are in Himachal Pradesh and you don't have internet connection. So even if all the data is available, you cannot use that. So steady internet connection is required. Does not work well with a low speed connection. Yes, that is true. You require a good average, but nowadays with a smartphone, it is possible. Features might be limited. Then cloud computing make the system slow because you have to upload the data, download the data. So that will availability is 24/7 from any place, but system works can be slowed. Stored data might not be secure. Suppose you are using a single cloud and without encryption, decryption, you are storing the data, then your data may not be secure. And stored data can be lost, what is called as the cloud outage. Suppose one service provider, suppose Nagpur University hired the service of a Nagpur's cloud service provider, which is providing service from last 5 years. And suppose because of pandemic, he loses his business and he closed down the services. So all the stored data can be lost. That's why people are moving with the multi-cloud environment. So that is the drawbacks of the things. So to summarize our session, cloud computing is a new paradigm of shift of computing. It provides high quality of properties and characteristics based on essentially central ideas. These are the references. Now, any questions you can ask in the chat window, or you can open your mic one by one and you can ask your questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for such a lovely and in-depth presentation on cloud computing.
Thank you.
I have queries about load balancing.
Yeah.
understand load balancing correctly, this technique need to handle two undesirable facets, namely overloading and underloading.
Yeah.
My first question is, what are the factors that cause load unbalancing problems?
Mhm.
And second question is, does it maintain a centralized system for recording the load of each system, or there is some adaptive learning that is taking place there for streamlining the load fairly or evenly?
Can you repeat the first question again?
What are the factors that cause load unbalancing problems?
Yeah. So factors, ultimately resources, the computing resources which are using, like there are important memory, then processing power, CPU power, and hard disk storage power. So suppose, as I given the example of stock market, uh, and say for example Google Cloud. Google is having 10 servers in India for Google Education Cloud, and suppose currently in 2021, hardly 50 university across the nation they are using Google Cloud. But in pandemic situation, suppose this number increases to 150, 100 more university approaches to the Google Cloud. Now the data is increased. So this is a factor. When you add more tenants, that affects the load. Second thing, when the tenants upload the data, so in that case, more processing power is required. Suppose that data is related to, say, uh, like ISRO data is there, sort of things, or share market data, which requires intelligence and which required high-end processing. So then you require high-end processor. So in that case, when you increase your processing, when the client is increasing, or when the processing need, memory need, and storage needs are increased, then it causes load imbalancing. And yes, there is a centralized, it is a separate topic actually we can discuss at this moment. People are going for a PhD in the area of load balancing. So there are different type of load balancing algorithms which are suggested for cloud computing environment. So you have to use those algorithms, and those algorithms are developed and they are installed by the Google and Amazon services. So they have separate team which always takes care of system monitoring using those algorithms. And those algorithms give a clear picture to the administrator which server is loaded, which server is overloaded and underloaded. And accordingly, but every time it is not manual. Nowadays, load balancing is done automatic one. So there are automatic softwares developed using those algorithms and which dynamically changes the load without any human intervention. It is totally automized.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, when an organization has to decide they have to move to cloud, sir.
Yeah. Ultimately, that decision is a very crucial decision, Dr. Nirmal sir.
Yes,
What happens that there is a 7 steps of cloud migration. I have not covered that topic in my today's session. So cloud migration, ultimately, when you think that you are wasting your resources, when you know that your initial capital investment is very, very high. For example, I told like Nagpur University, it has to make a comparative analysis. Now, most of the time, people don't make this type of comparative analysis. Like in case of every colleges, like I don't know from which colleges you are there, but if you are referring and if you have studied these systems and you develop your knowledge in cloud computing, you can refer to the college that better we will go with the cloud, the free clouds or the commercial cloud, because the way we are investing in computers with their hard disk, with the RAM and with the local storages and all these things, and the number of computers that is not required in colleges. So we have to firstly decide what is our need. The organization has to decide what is the need, how much is the capital investment which is required for computing resources like network and the processing and the memory resources which is required. What is the cost of that one, and what is the income? Ultimately, ROI is important, return on investment. Suppose I'm investing 50 lakhs in my organization and my utilization is hardly 10%. It means that I'm using only 5 lakhs rupees out of my IT infrastructure investment. So why to invest 50 lakhs in that one? It is a better, I will go for a Google Cloud Services and store everything on that one. But ultimately, another question is, I can store, but what about security? So in that case, there are two choices. There is you have to, the administrator has to take a decision. Depends. Suppose you want more security, then you have to pay more. And suppose you want to reduce the capital expenditure cost and software licensing cost, then you must go for cloud computing.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, more security means what? How we will decide that it is more secure? Means whether it is algorithm based or anything else, or length of key
Yeah,
for
basically,
encryption.
in security, again, cloud is a very big area. In security itself, there are, you can refer to one document that is called as the Cloud Security Alliances. There is called CSA, Cloud Security Alliance. This is the alliance of global alliance made of various cloud service providers, in which they have defined around 11 areas for the security purposes. So there is a security at EAS level, there is a security at class level, there is security at SaaS level. So more security is required. Suppose in a cloud, you are working in a private cloud, then security is not an issue because only your data, your organization data is there. So it is limited to your end user and your system administrator. But whenever you are working in a community cloud or in a public cloud, then in that case, suppose you upload the data on a single cloud environment, you upload everything on a Google cloud, and suppose Google stop the education cloud services after 6 months, then your whole data is lost. That is called cloud outage problem. So therefore, for more security, people are shifting to the multi-cloud environment where I will store my data in 3 parts, one part on one cloud, another in another service provider, third in third. So that way security can be enhanced. Second thing is that normally this service provider provides the encryption decryption, but that is from their end. Normally AES encryption is used for that one. So when you upload the data, after uploading, then they encrypt the data, but before encryption, their system administrator can always look to the data. So more security can be assured. For example, suppose Google provides one SaaS application in which before uploading my Nagpur University data, I will encrypt the data using my encryption standard. Like say I can use AES or Blowfish or DACE algorithm, whatever I want. And after encryption, then I will break the data into 3 parts and I will upload the data into 3 parts into 3 servers. So that is more secure because I am not giving encryption, decryption rights to the service provider. I am doing encryption, decryption as an end user. I am dividing into multiple chunks at my end, and then I'm uploading. So that type of multi-cloud environment is more secure. So there are various algorithms depending upon that security varies and depending upon the need of that.
Sir, there is a relation between big data.
What?
There is a relation between big data. Big data. There is a
Yeah.
relation with big data.
What is the relation of cloud computing with big data? Is it that question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Kumaran. So big data is what? Actually, big data is a separate concept. It is not related to the cloud computing directly. Big data is when we are using a social networking site like say Facebook and Twitter, then huge amount of petabytes of data are created daily. If you check out with the Facebook servers, you will come to know that huge amount of petabyte of data is created daily. In WhatsApp itself, we are forwarding the same message in multiple groups across the nation. So WhatsApp has to maintain all the data. So that type of data is called as a big data. Now this big data, the cloud computing is used to store this big data. Ultimately, you cannot store the, initially in the centralized computing system, the data was very small. So we can store on one server. But now for the applications like Facebook and WhatsApp and Twitter, huge amount of petabyte of data is created daily, which cannot be stored on a normal centralized system. So for which cloud computing is required. So ultimately, big data is a data, and for storing the big data, we require a cloud computing.
Sir, there are few questions in chat box also.
Okay, we'll go through that. Okay, till that, what type of mail services? Manoj? Just a minute. Vandaka. Okay. Till the whether mail services are cloud-based, till that I have given the answer. Yes, they are cloud-based, like Gmail and all these things. Is cloud follows plug and play technology? Yes, cloud follows the plug and play technologies. All the devices can be plugged and play in a cloud environment. Yes, this Mr. Sethi has said that is true. Mail services are developed before the initiation of cloud computing. Yes, in that period they were using type of basic concept of distributed system. But nowadays all the mail services, commercial mail services and free mail services, they are following the cloud computing concept. They are cloud based. Yes, Ms. Vasumati has asked, what are the open source cloud computing platform databases? Okay, cloud computing platform databases, like say whatever the Open Nebula and Eucalyptus, these are the two open source cloud which are provided, in which they have provided hundreds of databases. Mostly, like say MongoDB is open source platform. Then your this one, sorry, PostgreSQL, MySQL, these are all the open source database platform. And there are many more depending upon the need. Some people somewhere they use SQL3 also. How cloud manage security in database? I have given the
Yes.
detailed
Yes,
explanation for that. Yes. Any more questions?
I think, sir, all the queries are solved.
Is Eucalyptus used actively, sir? Yes, yes, definitely.
Yes.
It is very much popular among the open source people, specifically for research purpose. If you are doing PhD, many people are using that. Suppose you are using the Linux systems and certain sort of Linux based applications, then Eucalyptus is used for those purposes. And yes, one more thing I want to say, suppose you have, like, for example, my organization mail ID is hudit@stvincentngp.edu.in. This type of Google IDs, Gmail ID, Google comes with the professional IDs free of cost to every education organization. You can access to the Google, and Google will provide 10,000 free emails to the faculty and students. So if it is available, it is well and good. If it is not available, please ask your college management to have the professional mail IDs from the Google. And if you have that type of things, and then using that, if you access to the Google services and Amazon services and Windows Azure, hundreds of applications are freely available to the students and faculty members for use. I have used those applications during my doctorate period. So please use those things. Dharmik madam, if
Sir,
no question,
sir, what type of applications are freely available with the Google
all type of
platform?
applications, you know, if you have to provide from your you have to check, you can drop me my mail. I will enter my mail IDs here. Just this is my official mail ID. You can drop me the mails and I will forward you. But if you check, I will give the list of those things which are freely available. But for example, if you want to do your MTech or a PhD thesis using a cloud services, then all the type of basic cloud services are available, which are provided by Microsoft and Google free of cost. If you want to use more than that, then they charge something. But they give according to, like, for example, Microsoft gives services free up till the $1,300 when I have used around 2 years back. So according to the services they charge you, suppose you have selected the services which are going beyond $1,300, then after that they will start charging you depending upon your uses.
Sir, there is one last question.
Yes.
Sir, how edge computing relates with cloud computing? In chat box, there is one question.
Yeah. Edge computing relates with the cloud computing. Currently, I don't have details about that. I haven't worked in edge computing in detail. I'm sorry, I cannot give the detailed information about this.
Okay, sir. Sir, thank you so much. I think all the queries are resolved and nice session, sir. Very interactive and informative as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. So, ma'am, you can share this mail ID with the participants.
Yes,
So
sir,
suppose
sure.
they have any queries, you can drop me the queries and I will be definitely responding you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, tomorrow also same timing at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Ma'am. And the same
Okay.
participant group will be there?
Yes, sir. Same audience.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Same to you.
Thank you, sir.
So, friends, this is for our day. Thank you, all of you. And
Thank you,
today,
madam.
for today,
Thank you,
there are
madam.
some instructions.
There are some instructions.
Tomorrow, we will be having sessions till 4 p.m.
Madam, can you do one thing?
Yes, sir.
If you can ask all the people to switch on their video and take a snapshot
Yeah.
and send it to you.
Participants, please on your video.
These are across the nation. These are the faculty members.
Yes, sir,
from-
sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, nice to see all of you.
व्हिडिओ ऑन करा ज्यांना पॉसिबल असेल.
Madam, I will consider this is a attendance.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
see you tomorrow. Yes. फ्रेंड्स, कल के लिए कुछ इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं. मैं ऑडिबल टू यू.
Friends, कल के लिए कुछ instructions हैं. Audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
हेलो.
Audible, madam? Yes, madam.
ओके. श्रीनिवासन सर, प्लीज म्यूट योरसेल्फ. उससे ना थोड़ा इको.
Please mute yourself. उससे ना थोड़ा
Thank you, ma'am.
सो कल आपका सुबह मॉर्निंग में योगा सेशन रहेगा. आज मैंने सुबह जो इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए थे फॉर योगा सेशन, दोज इंस्ट्रक्शंस यू हैव टू रिमेंबर. आप थोड़ा सा अरेंजमेंट अच्छे से करके प्लीज़ अपने वीडियोस ऑन करिएगा सुबह, जितने लोगों को पॉसिबल है. देन नेक्स्ट सेशन विल बी फ्रॉम 11 o'clock, 11 to 12:30. half an hour lunch break. 1 to 2:30 will be next session of Brahmesh sir, and last session again you will be having of online, that is Shera Patel madam's lecture. So tomorrow you will be free by 4 p.m. तो कल अपने लाइव सेशंस 4 बजे तक रहेंगे. गॉट इट. अभी आप लोग और 10 मिनट रुक सकते हैं क्या? मुझे थोड़ा सा आप लोगों को एक होमवर्क देना है, जो कल के लिए तो नहीं है, बट जो अपन परसों से LMS चालू करेंगे, मूडल LMS, उसके लिए मुझे आपको कुछ एक ब्रीफिंग करके रखना है. मतलब वो चीज़ें आप अपने पास रेडी रखेंगे. आर यू विथ मी?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
ओके. 10-15 मिनट ही लगेंगे, ज़्यादा मैं नहीं बताऊंगी.
Ma'am, एक question.
यस यस प्लीज. 1 मिनट है, मैं इसका रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर देती हूँ. जस्ट अ मिनट.